Premji, scene 105, camera A, mark.
Munjal, thank you so much for doing this. We're very excited to learn a little more about Hippocratic AI. Can you tell us a little more about yourself and what the company does?
Yeah, I'm Munjal Shah. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hippocratic AI. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. This is actually my fourth company that I built and run. This is kind of what I do. It's what I love to do. It's what I'm built to do. And the company itself today is focused on building a large language model for healthcare.
When you think of AI and you think of LLMs, how do you tie those back to ensuring that the product is safe and the product is doing exactly what it's supposed to do without going on a tangent or doing something errant?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an inside out and an outside in approach. So a lot of people have been speaking about responsible AI and we need regulations to make AI safe. And they'll even ask questions like, tell me what your model's trained on. But what your model's trained on doesn't necessarily tell you if it's safe. Like, I could be trained on all good stuff, but it could conflate two things together and then say something unsafe. So there's like a false premise there that says, oh, just because I know what you're trained on, it tells me something about your safety. We said, there's a better approach. Run effectively a clinical trial, right? Like, get thousands and thousands of medical clinicians, be that nurses and doctors, to actually use the model as if they were a patient. So act as a patient, use the model and identify all the errors it's making and grade its safety and grade it on other factors, bedside manner, this and that. And we said, if you're going to have this model talk to your mother, do I want a stamp from some organization that says it's safe, or do I want 1,000 nurses telling me when they talked to it was safe? And so I think a lot of people have not thought about this bottoms-up safety, we call it, or clinician-driven safety. And so that's the first way we make it safe. And then the second way is we have a unique model architecture that we think you need on the technology side to truly ensure safety.
You released a paper very recently called Polaris, which essentially, I won't steal your thunder, but it stitches models together to ensure that safety, accuracy, low hallucination, and so on. Can you talk a little more about the Polaris architecture itself and what inherently within it makes sure that it covers the deficiencies of AI agents or LLMs otherwise?
There's this notion that you can make one model that's safe. But really, if you look at all safety systems in all engineering environments, the safest systems are always redundant systems. There's always multiple things helping to ensure the safety. You're never like, oh, we just had one brake on the car so it doesn't run away. There, on the roller coaster, right? No, there's actually redundant brakes on the roller coaster. There's redundant ways it can stop the thing from running amok. And I think that's what we realized is first you have the primary model and you can try your best to make it safe. But there's always some hallucination in the primary model. In fact, and if you don't let it be flexible, then it's not responsive. And so a good example is patients will say, oh, I'm not taking 2 pills a day, I'm supposed to take 4 pills a day. And most of your AI models, well, they're designed to really be rather responsive. And so they'll say, oh, great, sure, take 4 pills a day. But you could kill somebody just with that simple comment. And so we said, no. But if when we make it strict, then you say, hey, I want to talk to you about the intermittent fasting. And it's like, no, I don't want to talk to you about that. Let's go back to this. And they feel unheard and they feel like you're not being responsive and you have bad bedside manner. So how do you balance these? Well, you don't. You build one that's quite responsive, that's your primary conversation, and then you build a whole bunch of these supervisor models that override the main model and say, not 4 pills a day, 2 pills a day, you're not allowed to say anything else. And even lately, something we didn't even put in the paper yet, we've gone even further and we've now realized that you can build a secondary and a tertiary supervisor model in case the first model doesn't, because it catches the last few percent and the last 0.01% of additional use cases where even the backup model was kind of failing on. And so what we did is we focused on the things that truly impact care and truly impact safety. And then we just put belt and suspenders around all those and built multiple different redundant systems to make it safe. So this is a modular, safety-driven, redundant architecture. And if safety is your number one goal, then this is what you need.
Your team recently coined the term empathy inference. And for everyone who doesn't know what that means is, essentially when you think about AI agents in the past, when you used to speak to them, they often came across as very, very impersonal. You guys have found a way to respond to patients in a way that is a lot more empathetic in nature. And that's so much more important in a field like healthcare. How do you do it?
I mean, there's a little bit of secret sauce to how we do it. I will tell you the dimensions of it that we figured out. The first is people always perceive a lack of empathy if you have a lack of time. It's hard to show empathy if you're like, hurry up, tell me your problems. Oh, okay, all right, fine, I gotta go. You're like, did you really care? The LM has infinite time. The second is there's something that now happens in the world thanks to the iPhone. Do we ever pay attention to anybody 100% anymore? Like, we never do. And nothing makes you feel more seen and more heard than like truly paying attention. And the last one is continuity. How impersonal is it when you meet somebody again that you've met before and they're like, hi, my name's Munjal. And you're like, I met you already. Why are you introducing yourself to me? And I think that what we've come to realize is, the LMs can remember every conversation perfectly. And the amount that communicates that you matter, I remember you, even though it's an AI, by the way. But you can't help as you talk to it to kind of feeling that way. But there are some key things. It's got to be fast. It can't be super slow, because super slow is also the same as not paying attention to you. And so there are certain characteristics that it has to have. It has to have a certain voice. It has to sound a certain way. It has to use certain words. But a lot of it is just, giving you the time, infinite kind of focus on you, and all those other characteristics.
Hippocratic AI is a very, very young company. At the time of this shoot, you're probably a little more than a year old.
Yeah, I think we're like 14 months. Yeah.
But in that short span of time, you've raised more than $100 million. For all the budding entrepreneurs looking at this video today, what advice do you have for them on fundraising? And how do you choose your set of investors?
First, on the fundraising side, I have found a property that I call big is big, which is that when you go after big ideas with big market TAMs and big opportunities, everything is easier. Raising money is easier, finding co-founders is easier, recruiting people to your company is easier, getting partners to want to partner with you is easier. You have to think big. And that's where everything kind of comes to you then. It's kind of, the wind ends up at your back when you pursue the large opportunities. Like, think about it this way. The total market for software sales to healthcare is $100 billion. The amount of money spent on nurse staffing alone is close to $1 trillion. So why go after a $100 billion market when there's a $1 trillion market, of which 200 billion of it is open recs? But we've never been able to provide software to help staffing before, because the AI was never smart enough to do the whole job. So there's a new SaaS coming, staffing as a service. So anyways, that's a new way of thinking that led us to really say, oh my God, we just 10x the size of the market of all software to healthcare. And that made everything come, because everybody who heard this vision, they're like, yeah, that's a big idea. Like, let's go after that. Second is, then when you think about your investors, you have to pick investors who are willing to back such big ideas and are willing to just say, you know what, I'm gonna give you the money and you're gonna figure it out. So when we first raised, there was a fog of war, right? What's gonna happen with LLMs? Is GPT-4 at the time just gonna be the end all be all of everything? But we had a set of investors who were just willing to, put that in and say, you know what, I'll give you the money, figure it out. When you have the bold idea, you get the bold investors, and then you gotta it all fits together. And then you have to think very carefully, because then everybody came to us and said, I want to give you the next round. And we chose Premji because ultimately we realized we were a safety-first organization, and we thought, a fund that's primarily financed from a nonprofit designed for education and healthcare is the right partner that's going to say to us, oh, you're going to take an extra month, you're going to take an extra 3 months to make the product safe. Like, okay, that means we'll delay revenues, or you'll delay growing revenues even faster in the future. Like, we just sensed that there was an ethos alignment there between kind of the values of Premji and the values of Hippocratic. And, versus other people, I just sensed when I talked to them, I was like, yeah, they're just gonna be like, no, just ship it, make more money. And I'm like, no, but I can't. Like, I'm not here to just make money and hurt people. Like, I genuinely wanna make sure we're safe. And that is, as we had talked about earlier, the core tenet of the product and the company.